this? What is this on the? All right, guys. Um, it's Illuminostic. Thank you for joining me. Hopefully, I can get my. We're moving in the morning, so I'm a bit more disorganized than usual, and I'm already usually disorganized. So, crazy story tonight. This is one of the few videos I've ever made that I'm not really concerned about whether anyone watches it or not, except for maybe the person that it's about. That's a big part of my motivation. I imagine she probably will see it. Um, And if it continues, you guys are going to notice if you haven't already, because every 6 months or so, she completely attacks all my socials. Today, she was pretending to be two different people and pretending to have conversations with herself. And, I knew her for long enough that I know the words that she misuses, for example. You know what I mean? Like, it's, it's ridiculous. And it was also really obvious that she was actually watching the entire video because these attacks would integrate things from like way into the videos. So this is a person I haven't seen in 5 years, I guess, since I left um, California. We were together for quite a while. And it's kind of a sad situation because she actually has a neurodegenerative condition, Lyme's disease. I probably have it as well, but it's not as advanced. Um, there are little creatures called spirochetes that basically drill into your bone and your brain, and you slowly go insane. So if you're thinking, gee, Illuminostic, you seem like a smart guy. What are you doing dating this psychopath? Well, she wasn't that bad in the beginning. All mental illness is progressive, and some of it I think was inherited because her entire family were like soulless. It was one of the craziest and saddest things that I've ever seen in my life. And I actually kind of hate to put her on blast, um, but it's really bad. Like the attacks on my videos and my Facebook, the kind of things that she's saying are just about as bad as they can possibly get. Um, so it's a total, she's just in a jealous rage, trying to pull some character assassination. So I thought I would tell some of the story. It's really awkward to do this. Because I don't really want to, but I'm just kind of in a position where I feel like, what else can I do? I have no way to contact her directly. Um, I'm hoping, I guess, I can convince her to just stop this. It's been going on for 5 years, and it's really terrible to wake up and see all these crazy things all over my videos. And I mean, the first time it was crazy. She went through like 50 videos and put several comments in every single one of them, and all over all my Facebook pages and groups and just everywhere. And I had to go seek them all out and delete. And I mean, it was bad. Like, you know, and you can tell it's a crazy person because there'll be like two words like young girls, which was a reference to my partner who's 14 years younger than me, right? And calling me a pedophile because I was at the time dating someone that was 24 years old. Um, and then, she was saying that I like robbed Northern California before I came to South America. And on one occasion, I actually asked her, "So what is it that you're accusing me of stealing?" And she's like, copper wires, crystals, and then just in all caps, like young girls, like I'm stealing young girls. I mean, it's like become apparent to me that her mind has completely just melted. In fact, when I came back to the US and broke up with her, I was working with her boss, and I would come over sometimes to talk to the boss, and she would go up to the top of the ridge and just pace back and forth for hours and hours and hours and hours and hours and hours. I broke up with her on a few occasions. I was distancing myself as I was coming to South America. And basically what happened is I drank ayahuasca and I just went like, "Oh my God, I'm not going to spend another minute of my time dealing with this person." It was done. You cleanse out all of these things when you consume ayahuasca, and I realized that it's a crazy story, you guys, and it does have metaphysical elements, so it sort of fits this channel. And by the way, Virginia, it's good to see you there again. It's been a while. Um, Man, but where to start? Um, really, I want to try to get the message through to her because I know she'll watch this, that she's just be embarrassing herself and being a lunatic. And I wouldn't even care, except that, you guys, if you follow me, you know that we've been struggling for the last couple of years, my health problems and be getting hacked and having all of our money drained and all this stuff. And so, getting all these attacks across all my social media accounts is not going to help. So it puts me in a really difficult place. Like, do I delete my channel so that I can, there's no way for me to keep my audience and like move where she can't find me. I did call the police already once, which is crazy for me to do. Outlaws don't do that. We don't call the cops. It doesn't matter what the situation is. You don't ever call the cops. But I have a family now, and I'm thinking, okay, this could potentially really actually hurt me. What do I do to stop this person? So I called the police in Mendocino County, and I was like, this, I'm getting harassed, and there's all this crazy stuff happening. Is there anything I can do about it? And they said no. So, I'm in South America. I can't get a restraining order. I can't, because she's in the United States. So I have no way to stop her. It's like just something that I'll have to live with until she gets tired of it or something. And it's been 5 years, 5 years. And this still happens every once in a while. Like I said, it happened today. I don't know if you guys saw the mountain lion video that I posted where what happened was actually we were running down a trail and the mountain lion saw my son, who's little, he's 2 and he's running. And so it hit the fence like a freight train, man. It really was crazy. And so I picked him up and the cat did it again. And I thought, well, this will make a good video. So I held Nagwal, and it's a fence. It can't do anything. And the cat jumped again. I got a little clip of it and we left. And um, she put like, oh, child endangerment and how could his mother be like, some people shouldn't have children and all this stuff. uh Really, really nuts, man. Really, really nuts. um and so let's talk about narcissistic personality disorder. I can't just block her. That's the thing, I have blocked her. She makes new accounts. Today she was using 2 accounts to pretend like she was 2 different people, I guess, to try to make it seem like her story was realer or something. You know what I mean? She was talking to uh she had one that she named Martin and then another obviously fake name. It didn't even sound like a real name. And they were like communicating in my but they were both her. I mean, you guys don't understand how crazy this girl is. The first time I broke up with her, I went to work and I got 272 texts from her in like 5 hours. For a while, my phone was on and it was like beep, 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 beep. It sounded like fucking Morse code. It was it was fucking crazy. And I started to notice something was wrong, because she was very attractive, like a model from LA, and very sweet. She has a huge heart. That's something that's difficult for people to wrap their heads around with mental illness. People can be extremely toxic and extremely insane and still like genuinely sweet and well-meaning, which is the worst part of it. So, I started to notice little things over time, like that she would do something to me and then yell at me as if I had done it to her, and it's gaslighting taken to some like crazy extreme level. And just, pathological lying and paranoia and really like I didn't break up with her for so long, I think, because she made my life so difficult when I did. She would show up anywhere that she knew I was going to be. She would like one time I left because we were living together and I left and I had this like giant van and it's Northern California in the country, so I was like taking my time trying to figure out what to do. So I just like drove out into this place that I liked and I was just sleeping in my van for a few days. But I didn't have a ton of money. I'm sleeping in a van basically. And I remembered that she didn't have rent money and grocery money and stuff. And I drove to her parents' house because I saw her car there. I was driving by, I saw her car there. I went up to the door. I gave her $600. I'm not the child's father, right? But I know he's not paying his child support, and that she doesn't have any money and they're not going to have groceries, and I don't want them to go hungry. So I go to the door, and it was half of my money. I had $1,200 to my name, and I'm literally living in my van because I had just left our house. I'm not going to throw her out. She's got a kid, right? So I go and give her half of my money, and she calls me after she takes the money. She calls me a selfish piece of shit and slams the door, right? And so this is the person that's now attacking my character all over. You know what I mean? It's a lot to deal with. Well, that's the thing, Virginia. Again, I did block her, but all she has to do is create new accounts, and she actually is. She'll create another account. Um, and I definitely have some. I don't want to give her any ideas, so I have to be careful even what I say because I know that she's going to watch all this content. Like I said, I don't want to talk about my dramas here, but I feel like I need to do this partly to make an effort to communicate with her, although I know it will do no good. She's literally completely insane. Um, and like I said, it's really sad because she has a kid. She's a single mom. The kid lives in pretty deplorable. Like by the time I left her, she was gone, like completely loony. Um, so yeah, I know, but it's still, Virginia, it's not good if I have like new people coming to look at my videos and the kind of things that she's saying are okay. So let's talk about this because this is the part that she needs to hear, I think, because she is actually drawing on real events and then turning them into things that have nothing to do with reality. And the story is actually kind of interesting and entertaining for you guys. Um, So first, let's talk about NPD. I know I said I was going to do that before, but it's important because if any of you guys have anyone in your life that has narcissistic personality disorder, you have to get them out of your life completely. Any therapist or psychologist will tell you that you have no other option. It doesn't matter if it's your mother. You have to just cut them out of your life because it'll just destroy you. And it's incredible how the universe does these things because my mother had narcissistic personality disorder and I didn't know that, right? We grew up very excluded for secluded, or how do you say, like, not social at all, and totally antisocial. No relatives. My family had no friends. I was an outcast, so I didn't know what normal was. So I had no reference. And that never changed. When I left home, I didn't like go to normal people's houses and watch how they interacted or something. So I never really fully got it until I started to realize what was wrong with Sarah. And I will say her real name because fuck you, Sarah. Uh, and so um, it wasn't until I came down to South America to visit my mom and drink ayahuasca, and my mom started going into all of the same shit that Sarah does, that I realized that, like, just the synchronicity of having met Sarah and gone through all this crap with Sarah before I went to go see my mom for the first time in 8 years, and then suddenly realized, like, holy crap, I grew up with Sarah. Like, this is this is what this is about. And, I tend to lean towards the universal mind putting us in these situations so that we learn from them. But it is, worthy of mention that psychologists tell us that we can see subtle subconscious clues in people. And so that's how we always end up, with our father or with our mother. Um, I don't buy it because the way that things happen with her. I'm actually going to make a video about it at one point because it is incredibly, the synchronicities and stuff. Which it led to a huge disappointment because I really thought that it was like a divinely inspired thing, but it was this horrible lesson. The universe wasn't putting it together because it's like beautiful and divine. You know what I mean? It's like those memes you see where people are like, "Oh, I thought my spiritual awakening was going to be all huffing unicorn farts and blowing lines of fairy dust, and it turned out to be this horrific. They're pulling their hair out and their eyes are all sunken in or whatever. That's the reality of it because you have to get through your traumas, you have to resolve all this stuff, you have to know yourself fundamentally, whether it's Aleister Crowley or Socrates, pretty much any mystic of any kind of substance ever has made, know thyself the number one rule in, spiritual development, right? So that was a mind blower, man, when I realized that, this narcissistic person, and the thing is, I wouldn't have known, I wouldn't have understood my mother all of a sudden if I hadn't gone through it with Sarah and had to figure out, because it's so complicated. It's so insane. Like they project everything. Like earlier, I was saying how she would do something to me and then yell at me for doing it to her. She really believed it. At first, I thought she was just like being a bitch, like that. She knew she was being manipulative. But eventually, I figured out like, holy shit, this girl actually believes this stuff that she says about her mom and her dad and her sister and me and everyone around her, and that's extremely dangerous because when you are, involved with a person that can just decide they believe that you did something, they can accuse you of anything and actually believe that they're telling the truth. So, again, you guys, narcissistic personality disorder is super dangerous. Get to know it. Yeah, the fact that they really believe yeah, Charles, what you're saying, that is definitely the craziest part. And I'm very, I'm not trying to boast, but I'm very conscious. Like I know what I'm doing and I know why I'm doing it. Even if I act from a subconscious place, I'll notice immediately. You know what I mean? I've trained myself to do this even and I think I was inclined to it in the before I trained myself. So it's difficult for me to relate to people having these automatic processes that they engage in because I don't do that. You know, and I would know if I did. You know what I mean? Yeah, man, I wish I had done that more and recorded her and stuff, but it wouldn't matter. It doesn't matter. That's the thing. Like their brains are wired in some fucking gnarly ass way, and it's got to do with trauma, like extreme emotional trauma. Her parents were totally fucked up narcissists too, and they were totally cruel and awful. And what they do is they have a golden child and a black sheep. She was the black sheep, and her sister was like nose jobs at 15, boob job at 16, buying her trucks. Her parents were pot growers. They would give her daughter, the one daughter, her sister, 98 holes and maybe give Sarah one, even though she was a single mom on the family property. Like it was fucked up. I mean, that's why I'm saying I hate to have to do this to her with this video, but she's kind of put me in a position. Okay, so let's talk about what she's talking about, right? When she is attacking me, and she's saying I robbed all these people in Northern California of crystals and copper wire, right? Like, what the fuck am I gonna do with crystals and copper wire? Like, I've been an outlaw since I was born. If I need to rob somebody, I'm gonna make it worth it. It's a felony either way. I'm gonna jump out the 6 foot, cock the hammer, and kick down the door. You know what I mean? And I wouldn't do that. I'm just saying that if I was gonna go on a robbing spree, stealing copper wires and crystals doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. But I think I have figured out what's going on here. It's a crazy ass story. So in Northern California, there is a family. I won't say their names, but the patriarch is one of the scariest motherfucking people ever. He's a PhD from Harvard. I'll say his name. They called him Black Bart. Pretty sure he died right before I came down here. I knew his entire family. And it was crazy. Like, I don't know if he was a rat or if he paid him off or what, but the feds would come through and bust all of his neighbors and literally drive right past his pot plants and then bust everyone else and then go back right by his pot plants and not like year after year after year after year. And he would do things like he would buy someone a house that was struggling and then he would betray them, not to get the house back or anything, but he would like do amazing things to help people and then like kill them or something, or almost, and sometimes probably actually kill people. Multi-millionaire criminal, like his kids told me stories of like, they would wake up when they were like 6 and go through the living room and there's like cocaine orgy, they're tripping over it, giving the kids drugs when they're like 10 or 11 years old and stuff. So this dude was notorious as fuck. And by the time I was dealing with this situation, he was like 80 something years old and dying. And one of his daughters was actually the drummer in my band for a while. Which was that was a trip because she was older and I had her playing Tool and stuff. This older hippie lady. uh, but anyways, so I knew the family. I had not met this woman that I ended up kind of working with, but my psychotic ex had hooked up with her. and was living with her while I was in Ecuador. So I came back to the States, and I was like, Sarah, I'm not. This ain't happening anymore. She thought we were gonna still be together or whatever, and I was just as soon as I saw her, I was like, look, I just couldn't even believe it. Like I couldn't believe in my new healthy state of mind, I couldn't believe that I had done it for 2 minutes. You know what I mean? That I had ever tolerated any of this shit. Like it was just blew my fucking mind. I'm not that guy. But because of this weird archetypal psychological disposition that I had to learn from and that my mother had and that whole thing there, it's just like this thing that just had to happen. But after ayahuasca, I was like, no, not even for a second. And so, but I continued to work with the woman that she was living with, this daughter of this notorious outlaw. And so I was supposed to grow a crop for this lady and it was going to be legal. They had just started doing this. They could like file their shit legally, but you have to jump through all these hoops and pay all this money. And so she told me it was going to be legal. And so I bought a nice truck, but the guy burned me and it needed thousands of dollars worth of work. And this house was way out in the country where pot growing farms always are. And so I was like, okay, well, look, can you loan me 2,500 bucks so that I can drive to town and back until the crop comes in and I'll pay you back 5 grand at the end of the year. So it's like an advance on the work that I'm going to do. So no problem. She's got $1 million in her closet and her dad's about to die and leave her $50 million or something. So no big deal. Um, so it turns out that the year before, she had some guys running this grow that were tweakers. And when I was out there, I started to notice things like in front of the door to the shed, there was like a piece of plywood with like 1,000 nails in it, like sticking up out of the ground. I was like, what kind of tweaker shit is this? So when you've been in Northern California long enough, you can see any sign of tweakerness quickly. Your life depends on it. Tweakers are not human. We used to not even joke. We probably would have done it. Tweaker Tuesday, where we were trying to get the sheriff. We actually did petition the sheriff's office. They wouldn't do it, but it was like kind of a joke. If they'd taken us up on it, but it was to get hunting tags for tweakers on Tuesday. And you guys got to understand that after a certain point, they're gone. There's no coming back. 99% of them do not recover, and they become sexually deviant. They steal everything. They're violent. It's the worst thing ever. So I started to notice that there was evidence that tweakers had been around, and then it came out, and she's like, "Oh yeah, the guy." He actually came up there for some reason to talk to her, and she's like, "Yeah, well, they started tweaking, and something happened." And I was like, okay, so there's a little bit of weird history here, but she seemed cool, and so I was going to continue on with it. So I'm driving out of there one day and I slam into a giant boulder, and I'm like, what the fuck? Like, I drive on this road every day. Maybe I should have been paying attention, but it's like sandstone, same color as the road, no way to see it. So this tweaker had booby trapped the road, either to get me or her, both of us driving $50,000 cars. They know they're going to do some damage, right? So they booby trapped the road. And so now I've got, $3,000, $3,500 worth of damage. She loaned me 2,500 to get it fixed before. Now it's got a new $3,500 worth of damage. So she's like, okay, well, I'll pay for it because that was my fault. They were after me, it's my beef, whatever. So I'm thinking, okay, well, that means now you owe me $1,000. You know what I mean? Like if that's the deal. So a few days later, I'm driving up and I need pot plants. And I look and I see the neighbors have got like all these extra pot plants in their front yard, like probably 100 of them or something. And they were all really nice looking. And so I pulled in the driveway. It's my neighbors, and I'm like, hey, how's it going, you guys? I need some plants. And they're like, oh, yeah, well, we got all this really great stuff everywhere. And I was like, okay, cool. And they're like, so do you realize that they're going to bust this property this year? And I was like, what? And they're like, oh yeah, the cops have told her that if she doesn't get, all of her stuff legal, that they're going to bust it. And my impression was that her family was like untouchable because Bart, her dad, uh, they bust everyone around and leave him standing, the old last man standing, right? So I'm thinking I'm under the cover of whatever that is. This is his favorite daughter. Um, so they tell me a bunch of stuff, and I realize she had no intention of making the property legal. That she knew that there was a almost 100% chance that they were going to bust it, but she was going to put so little of her own money into it that it was worth it to roll the dice. But she was basically setting me up to get busted. And so I called her and I was like, "Hey, we really need to get this paperwork going, and I need, certain things like, she wouldn't spend any money." And as it got closer and closer to time to plant, I'm like, the the legal thing, the neighbors say they're going to bust this place, and so she's like, "Oh no, I think you just need to go, and I'm just gonna not do it, uh, and by the way, give me your guitar and your amp to pay back that loan." And I'm like, "What? Okay? So you make a deal with someone, right? It's contingent upon you playing a role in order to fulfill the terms. You break that contingency, the deal is gone, right? So, so on top of that, she had offered to fix my truck, which was more than she had lent me, and she hadn't done it. So I was like, "You're not getting my guitar and my amp, and I'm not going to pay you right now because, I was living there. I had to suddenly go find another place to live with no notice." And Rika had just flown up there to help me for the season to live in the US. All of a sudden, there's no job and no house because this woman had tried to set me up to get busted. And so I guess what I'm gathering from this is that when Sarah is pasting all this crap all over my social media saying that I robbed them or took something, she's saying that I took crystals and copper wires to go sell them like a tweaker. Um, I mean, it's just, first of all, she was with me for years. She knows that I have integrity. She took money from me when she knew I was living in a van to pay for her kid that's not even mine. Like, she knows what kind of person I am. It's just, in fact, there are people in this community that suggested when I was really in trouble that I should create a scam coin, and I refused to hurt other people that hadn't hurt me, even when I was like worried about my life. My life is on the line. So I know, there are people in this community that know damn well if I'm not willing to do that, if it's like a degen token, most people only invest $10 or something anyways, so what? You stole $10 from 300 people. You know what I mean? I wouldn't even do that to save my life. Like I'm gonna like steal her copper wires and go recycle them or something. So it's possible that the tweakers that were there the season before actually did go back after I left and pulled wires and did the tweaker shit that she's like typing on my socials that I did, right? But I don't think so because I actually talked to the woman because I'm trying to be the better person, right? And I was like, "Look, I didn't get paid, and it's because of you. But I'm not going to pay you double like the loan, but I will pay you the principal. I'll pay you what you gave me when I get my inheritance, which that was supposed to be a year. It's been 5 years, but I still would do that. I still would do that, even though her workers booby trap ruined my truck and she didn't pay for it like she said she was going to. She broke the terms of our agreement. Just so I don't have any bad blood with any psychopaths in Northern California, I would pay her at least, not the double, but the money that she actually loaned me, even though she really owes me money, just because we want to go back to Mendo. And the worst thing about this is knowing that if my ex is attacking me this way on my socials and going to Facebook and listening to my videos and she's this psycho, can you imagine the kind of stuff she's told this outlaw community full of murderous bikers that regulate their own anarchic system? Like we were planning to go back, you know. But I know that, if she's being this vicious on social media, that she's being just as vicious with her mouth in that town. So It's just, it really is an absolute nightmare. And the first time it happened, I remember thinking like, okay, it'll blow over eventually. You know, she'll just go away and move on with her life. She'll meet someone 5 fucking years later. And not only is she still like stalking and attacking me like this, but the elaborate shit that she'll do to create two separate accounts so that she can pretend like she's two people talking to each other, I guess to try to make it look realistic, like there are other people that know or something. Um, it's it's fucking crazy, man. Yeah, I think NPD is her only real problem, and that shit, as Mr. Charles knows, unfortunately, man, it's something else. I think that's why I wasn't I'm a pretty smart guy, and I've studied psychology a lot. Taken a lot of psychedelics even back then. You know, I I really believed that it was me sometimes because I couldn't imagine that she was that crazy, that people could, like project the way that she did. It just didn't seem real. And that's one of the reasons it took me so long to figure it out. I just couldn't understand, like, what in the fuck is going on here? And, little by little, I started to actually realize, like, holy fucking shit. And it's not like when someone is like a violent, like evil, mean, she was just as sweet. If she wasn't in a toxic modality, she was fine. Like she was sweet and smart and, we could talk about stuff. And I mean, it's just, and then it's like there was like some kind of switch and then this complete psycho would, and it was everyone else, and it's like, how can anyone that has these same exact crazy relationships actually convince themselves that it's everyone else when every single relationship is the same, right? She's like, oh, my sister has NPD, my dad has NPD, my mom has NPD, you have NPD. It was me, of course, and just everyone everywhere. um, Completely insane paranoia. I mean, why does Aya Blast come to mind? Yeah, really, man. Um, yeah, so, and I was gonna tonight come on and tell you guys about our plans and what we're about to do, and try to rally some support, because of course we've had some serious bullshit going on. Really, I still every day I wake up and I think about that hacker, and I wish I could find him and feed his balls to a pit bull while he's still alive. Um, But what I was saying is that I don't really even want to talk about where I'm going or what I'm doing. Not that, I can't imagine what she could actually do with that information from California. But it's like it's really sad that I have to it's just crazy, to feel like you're being watched by someone that has a malicious intent all the time. The level of obsession that she has demonstrated, even back when I knew her, is unbelievable. Like I don't know that I've ever heard anything like this before. Um, like when I talk about her stalking me, unfortunately, I was a musician, and some of the gigs were relatively high profile, so it wasn't hard to find me. And every gig I had, like if I broke up with her, she would dress as like, provocatively as she possibly could. She went to school for makeup. And that's another thing about narcissistic personality disorder. It's not classical narcissism, but it has elements of it. She would literally go into the bathroom and put her face on for 3 to 4 hours every single time she left the house. Every time. 3 to 4 fucking hours. And I noticed after a while that she would actually whistle like this, like "Doo, doo, doo, doo," like what was that old show with Opie and it was just the weirdest fucking thing, you know. It's like real wholesome, old school, like whistling kind of. Like, what the fuck is going on in there? But so, I mean, that's the whole story, you guys. It's the God's honest truth, you know. Like, I have never stolen anything from anybody. I'm definitely not a pedophile. You know, she's the young girls thing was a reference to Enrica, who was, you know, in her mid 20s when we met. It's just the whatever the evilest shit she can think of to try to slander me. I couldn't believe it either when I said, you know, okay, what did I steal then? And she's like, copper wires, crystals. What the fuck? Are you serious? Come on, you can do better than that. Like, you know, the people that she was accusing me of stealing from have 200 pounds of weed in their garage. So I'm able to access the copper wires in their house and strip them out to go recycle them, and I'm not stealing their weed and all of the other valuable shit. That house that we left had flat screen TVs, huge flat screen TVs upstairs, downstairs. You know, it's just, man, people. The worst thing about being insane is that you don't know that you're insane. Um, you know, it's the only reason that part of me is like, just don't even worry about it because these comments and stuff, it's you can tell it's a psychopath. You know what I mean? You know there's something wrong with who's ever making these accusations. But it still kills me. Like the first time, man, it was horrible. The channel was a lot bigger than it is now. You know, I was getting a lot of views. And I wake up in the morning and there's this all these horrible slanderous things on 100 videos or whatever, all over my Facebook. People in the community saw it where I just moved, you know, and I already have kind of a weird reputation just because there were so many right wing Christian fundamentalists. And I'm like, kind of, I do everything I can to tear that shit to the ground. You know what I mean? Like they already were kind of had their hackles raised because of that. You know, her family members, Enrica's family members, she doesn't deserve this shit. You know, what the fuck did she do to have our livelihood attacked like that just because she's jealous and her life is pathetic? You know, it's really just it's a fucked up thing. And they've had her on fentanyl for like a decade. So, you know, I've taken fentanyl a couple times in my life, and it is a fucking evil thing. And so to try to imagine what your brain would be like after 10, 12 years of fentanyl patches every day, plus pills on top of it. Lyme's disease is a terrible thing. It's probably what's wrong with me. You know, I don't know if you guys could, if I could even show you this because it's kind of down there, but it attacks the soft tissues. And I actually, like, my jaw is exposed between my teeth in a couple of places. And my entire, all of the soft tissues in my entire body are inflamed. Like, I can feel my lungs when I breathe. And they say that when you wake up, it's the worst. And when I wake up in the morning, my first thought is usually, please God, kill me. If this is gonna be how it's gonna be every day, just please just kill me. And then I have to go through that for like 20 or 30 minutes and try like hell to go back to sleep. And if I can't go back to sleep, then I realize I have to move because that kind of starts to make it get better. And then it takes like, you know, a couple of hours to kind of shake it off. And it never totally goes away. But, you know, just based on the descriptions that I've heard of Lyme's disease, I'm pretty sure I have it as well. And it's, it's, what do you call it? Like a pandemic in Northern California. Some doctors say that up to 90% of people have it. Ticks carry it. And one day I took my two pit bulls for a walk when I was living in Lake County in Northern California. And when I got back to the house, I picked 87 ticks before I lost track off of one pit bull. And the other one was just as covered. I didn't bother to keep trying to count. And I made the mistake of putting them in a glass, thinking that they couldn't climb glass. And I wasn't really paying attention, and they got out of the glass, and they were like all escaping into the house. Oh my god, that was because there are tick nests, and so the dogs like running around. They hit a tick nest, and it explodes, and the ticks just. Point being, I probably have Lyme's disease. Yeah, I know, man. And that crazy ass broad, like she would say that, you know, always talking about spoon theory and stuff. Um, Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised, man. Cat's claw tea gets rid of Lyme's disease. Man, you have any idea how much cat's claw I've been drinking? I've been making this tea. I haven't been able to do it. We're going back to the jungle. I'm glad because I really think that the plants can help. It takes longer. than a lot of traditional medicines. But yeah, it's funny. This is the one hesitation that I have about going to this place is they're vegan, and we're not vegan. But if we're going to be there, we have to be vegan. And not only am I not vegan, but I also have this thing about how our will is sovereign. And the first rule of Enlightened People's Club is that you don't tell other enlightened people what to do ever, no matter what. Period. End of story. Unless what they're doing is affecting you. Period. Ever. Right. So making rules is kind of off limits in my world. It's not necessary to impose your will upon me because I won't harm you and I'll help you if I can. So you know what I mean? Like I'm not thrilled about that, but everyone's really nice, and I feel like maybe I've never eaten vegan. Maybe it'll help me. But I do have this one like sort of philosophical issue that's kind of difficult to ignore. Um, yeah, I'm sure brain is really good for you. But anyways, Uña de Gato is definitely amazing. It's not only in anti-inflammatory, it is anti-cancerous, it's anti-tumor. I mean, the list of stuff that they've confirmed in clinical studies that it actually does is long, really long. And then Sangre de Drago, dragon's blood from the tree. Here, you just cut it and collect it. And then there's another medicine that I don't know if I don't know what in the hell it really is, but they call it Dr. Santi, the Shuar and the Quechua, and well, the Shuar and the Quechua definitely use it. It's like white, and it's the same kind of latex as Sangre de Drago. They cut the tree and collect it. That stuff, the indigenous people here, it's above all the rest of it. And Sangre de Drago also has been proven to have amazing ability to uh, how's it? It's like to rebuild damaged tissue. Um, it's really crazy how powerful and effective this stuff is. And so also so Uña de Gato, Sangre de Drago, Dr. Santi. There's a couple other ones I can't remember right now. My brain's getting a little mushy. Do me a favor too, you guys. Hit the like button, share, subscribe. We're demonetized and freshly hacked of 2 years of our savings. So we do appreciate the support if you guys like the content. If you didn't get to check out the Crowley video that I just posted, I think it's got some great stuff in there, and I'm gonna do that whole entire series of commentaries. So we're going through the entire book of the law, and then we're doing the magical and philosophical commentary first, and then I'm going to do the old comment, um, or the old comment's only a paragraph. The new comment and the degenerate, I don't even know how to say it, Dgenierise, whatever. It's that one. So I'm going to do all the commentaries. We're almost done with the Kabbalion, I think. We'll do some more of that. But you know what, you guys? Do not fuck with toxic people. Like, if you realize that there's something wrong with your partner, get rid of them. Like, don't hesitate. There's certain types of issues that are not going to resolve, and you can't fuck around. I really wish that I had the first time that I left her. I should have kept going, but she literally chased me to in her car, chased me to the gas station, and got in my van and started like throwing all my stuff out in the parking lot. I mean, how the hell do you not leave someone that's doing something that insane? Um, but I just got tired of getting out of the van and collecting my stuff, and I didn't want to like punch her. I guess I could have gotten a cop, but you know what happens to an outlaw if you flag a cop down for something and anyone sees it? You're dead. You know what I mean? You can't do that. So I couldn't do that. Even if I wanted to, I couldn't have done that. Yeah, Mr. Charles. LSD definitely helps with opiate withdrawals. I don't know that it's the thing about ketamine is that it actually stops it, and not entirely and not permanently, but it'll totally mitigate the effect for during the acute phase of the dose, and then even after it wears off, the withdrawals are diminished. So it's definitely the best thing you can possibly use. But LSD and breathing and probably psilocybin, but I have a lot of physical discomfort when I take psilocybin, so I don't know that I could. I haven't tried it. But I do know for certain that LSD and ketamine will help with with opiate withdrawals. I've never heard of Voakonga or Katuaba. Nice. Yeah, man. Lyme's disease, if that's what's wrong with me, it's definitely the worst thing that I could have. I mean, I had a chronic illness for since I was 20 years old, off and on, some sort of autoimmune immune condition. And I took San Pedro a couple of years ago, and San Pedro talks to me and very clearly, and it said, yeah, I was like, I'm tired of being sick. I can't wait to be better. The cactus said, uh, this is nothing compared to what's about to happen to you. I wouldn't wish what you're about to go through on my worst enemy. And I was like, damn, that's not what you want to hear. Uh, and sure enough, I just got progressively more and more ill and more and more ill and more and more ill. And actually, over the last couple of weeks, I'm starting to feel a little better. Definitely ketamine therapy helped a lot to reset my brain. If you have any prejudices about using ketamine therapeutically, don't. You just have to understand how it works. The glutamate um, the glutamate is the most ubiquitous and the most potent receptor or neurotransmitter in your brain, and it has the most role to play in depression, cognition, memory. Uh, and somehow ketamine also can stop opiate withdrawals. People that have had totally untreatable depression have single doses and often are totally recovered from the depression when I've read a couple of case studies where they were literally about to kill themselves, and then someone injected them with ketamine, or they went to the doctor, and they're like, "Oh, I'm 80% better now," like instantly. So it doesn't seem realistic, but that's why these medicines have been prohibited, because they can end addictions, and they can treat neurological disorders that big pharma can make, in the course of someone's lifetime, hundreds of thousands of dollars off of a single individual, in some cases even millions of dollars, if your insurance is good enough and you have a weird enough and rare enough condition. And when the federal government had them study the psychedelics, and the researchers said we can cure almost any psychological or neurological aberration, oftentimes with a single dose with these medicine. Federal government said, get fucking cops down there and shut them down right now. You know what I mean? As soon as big pharma lobbyists heard about it, they're like, no, 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 no. So that's the reality, people. Government doesn't have your back. Magnesium in high doses. Enrica is always trying to get me to take magnesium. Um, yep, NMDA agonist. That is a fact. And I can't remember the cells that it works on. And so what's happening is that psychiatry is moving away from the focus on serotonergic uh, 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 compounds and um, pre and post synaptic activity, and the classical focus of psychiatry has been on these things. And just in the last year, they're finding out that the glutamate is and the glutamate signaling in the brain is probably much more important and has a slightly different role. So now that there's some attention being paid, our ability to treat all sorts of mental illnesses. And the thing is, you guys, in case you haven't noticed, the governments of the world are dependent upon mental illness to maintain their power, right? No sane, healthy people are going to tolerate their shit. You have to be mentally disabled in some way to put up with being governed, at least by these fucking monsters. So, um, yeah, well, and that's the thing, I mean, that's it's part of the reason that, I think the idea of population control has so much credibility is that, we're looking at Um, a lot of technologies right now that can prolong life. There's all sorts of stuff that I've just sort of caught precursory glimpses of, um, where they're, figuring out how to stop cells from aging, reversing aging. They just sent a particle back in time for the first time the other day. But the point is that, if you have 9 billion people consuming resources and creating waste, and all of a sudden none of them have to die anymore, you have a fucking problem unless you get rid of 2/3 of them or so. Probably a lot more than that. And I don't think people are really thinking about this, that we are at the point where we can use technology to extend life, to, like, crazy long, if not indefinitely. And we also have AI that can take over entire sky rises full of office workers. You know what I mean? And automated, like, good. It's just, what are you going to do with all these useless eaters? Um, it's really a problem, I think. Even from the point of view of someone who's not evil, if you're just trying to imagine yourself as like an objective intelligence that's trying to manage an organism, and the things that live on it are just like cells, you know? And you're like, oh no, these cells are not really functional anymore. We need to get them out because they're going to become cancerous. It's not really even that evil, from a certain objective perspective. It's just, you know, it's just management. It's just the same thing that your cells are intelligent. People don't think about this. Like when a white blood cell attacks, even a cancer cell in your body, it's life feeds on life, feeds on life. It's living things, organisms destroying each other. Our body is full of organisms that are constantly killing each other in order to maintain our health. Um, so it's wild circumstances that we are. You got to vaccinate them against a long life. You mean for a long life? You got to be careful about that. I don't even know if I should have this stuff in my chat. I mean, I mean, they're really cracking down, man. And by the way, you guys, the reason I haven't made the oh, what is it, the World Economic Forum and Davos videos is that I haven't watched the videos in their entirety. And one of the main um, arguments that people have about how conspiracy theorists need to just shut the fuck up, when they do have a point, it's usually because somebody took something out of context. So before I open my mouth, before I start singing, I have to make sure that I know my song well. And so I have to watch the videos in their entirety, before, I can talk about it. So I want to make sure at least that it's not misinformation. Although I don't see how it could be. I mean, these guys are saying stuff like, we abolishing free will, solving the problem of the absolute power of the state. Apparently, those guys don't read Crowley because they would know that the absolute power of the state is is a product of the absolute liberty of the or what is it? The absolute sovereignty of the state is dependent upon the absolute sovereignty of the individual will, right? That's the real secret to, you know, it's but they don't want to do that. They don't want to go that way. I don't know why. I mean, it would be fine. They could still be rich and powerful, and I don't understand what they're thinking, why they're acting like this. Why do they want to control everything? Why are they trying to sterilize the world? What the fuck is their problem? You know what I mean? And other than the necessity of population management, which I do understand, you know, whether I like it or not is irrelevant. Facts don't care about your feelings. Uh, you know, I don't understand when I listen to them talk. I don't understand what drives them. Klaus Schwab's advisor, Dr. Harari or something, Yuval Harari, um, he was the one that was talking about how, we can hack the human organism so that we can create a technological or digital dictatorship, and get rid of the necessity to decide what we're going to buy at the grocery store or who we're going to vote for. Free will, that's over. Those are his exact words. Free will, that's over. That's over? Like what the hell? What? And you know, I have to also, yeah. Yuval Noah Harari. Yep. Um, the fact that they're talking about all this out in open like this is also pretty horrifying because it implies that, um, yeah, I think it's more than that, man. Of course, the guy's German, so he's just, it's almost like he's just thinking we have to make the human race as efficient as possible, you know. Terrible German accent. I lived with him for a couple of years, Germans, and I could not, still can't do the accent. Um, but yeah, man, fuck those guys. I don't know what. Klaus Schwab is not German. Klaus Schwab is German. The other guy though is Israeli, but Klaus is definitely German, dude. Yeah, but Klaus is German. He's definitely German. Um, yeah, but I don't. What the fuck is their problem? Like I said, I understand the necessity for population management, but why do they want to make everyone just totally efficient robots? It's totally dildos. I mean, I don't. Why? You know, um, hack the human organism. Like I'm sure by now most of you guys have seen these videos. It's crazy, and I feel really bad because I've known about this stuff since the late '80s, and I just didn't believe in myself enough to really take it seriously and get out there and talk about it and try to, you know, I mean, amongst my friends and stuff, but you know, I think I was also just I sort of believed that it couldn't all possibly actually happen, you know, and then once I started to really like my life and it seemed like I could kind of live in my dreams, I didn't want to believe that there was just going to be some dickhead new world order that was just going to take all of our freedoms and turn the ones that remain into automatons. That's no fun. So I think I tried to convince myself that I was wrong all those years and that it was all just I was just a dumb stoner and you know what I mean, like um, oops. Uh, and you know I don't want to be too pessimistic about it because I don't necessarily think they've won. Uh, I I think that there can be a lot of surprises. I think that the possibility of alien invention and intervention is really high. Um, it's there's just so many possibilities, and it's also interesting. I mean, you definitely have no excuse for being bored. You know, you should not be bored right now because this is the craziest in terms of novelty. The way that Terrence McKenna used to talk about novelty, this is the craziest goddamn time that has ever. You know, it's really wild. Yeah, I don't get it, man. Like, if I had enough money to live for the rest of my life, and then also know that like one or two generations, they should be able to manage money well enough to, you know, if you have $1,000, making $1 million is nearly impossible. But if you have $1 million, making another $1 million is nearly inevitable, right? So you don't really need that much to ensure your own freedom. You know, that's really all it should be, freedom and all of your time. Like Bob Dylan once said, when a man can wake up in the morning and he decides what he does with every single second of every single day, that is success. You know, beyond that, what the fuck is wrong with you? You know what I mean? It doesn't make any sense to me. I've never understood. I have trouble accruing wealth because I just, you know, I can't walk past a um, refugee or, you know, the people on the street with kids here all over the place. You know, I don't care if I'm broke. I can't just like, you know, I've got a couple bucks in my pocket. I can't help but give it to them. I don't get it. I'm gonna eat. You know. Speaking of eating, you guys, we are demonetized, so please hit the like button, share, subscribe, and if you like the content, there are a bunch of different options in the chat and in the description. Cryptocurrency, you can buy merch and PayPal, Zelle, Cash App. This channel is once again almost our entire income at this point because COVID. They really have put us in a stranglehold, man. A lot of people. I know it's not just my family that they're choking out with all of this shit. I know why. But what I was saying is that, I at the risk of sounding like a woo, I shouldn't even say misinformation. Um, and risk of sounding wooey, which I do all the time, I guess. Our consciousness is fundamentally connected. And the Kabbalion, I was doing that video the other day, and they're talking about how induction allows us to constrain the consciousness of others around us to, or to entrain, excuse me, and so we just continue elevating our consciousness and living more and more in accordance with the dictates of our higher self, and establishing conversation, knowledge and conversation of the holy guardian angel, and staying the fuck away from our psychotic exes. That we can affect change through non-ordinary means. Um, you know, it's 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 a fundamental law of the universe that things that cycle entrain, and even things that seem to be decay and chaos, like entropy, push systems towards homeostasis unless there's an unnatural influence. So, and there is an unnatural influence, of course, but the game is not lost. It's kind of like it's like the last quarter in a football game, and the opposing team is like 6 inches from the end zone, and our defensive linebackers got a spinal injury, and um, yeah, exactly right. Um, yeah, I don't know, you guys. It's getting late, and I have to be on a bus for 7 goddamn hours tomorrow. Um, we're going to Schwar territory. We wanted to stay here longer. One of our supporters actually found a dentist that I could see for free, and apparently this problem is making me ill, which isn't good. But uh, things did not work out the way that we were hoping, and so it's really expensive in this part of Ecuador. We got to get the fuck out of here before we run out of money. We hung on to the last minute, and I was like, maybe if my live stream raises like $500, which would never happen, then we can stay and do it. But otherwise, we're going to the jungle where it's cheap until we have more money, and then maybe we can come back and try this again. But basically, what happened, for those of you that have been following, is that we had made a bunch of money in crypto, and I came up with this plan to go meet with the Warani again and the Shuar because their oil pipeline broke on their land, and I hate it when the jungle gets fucked up, so I wanted to go and try to help. And and we can bring money into the indigenous communities, especially the Warani. They don't drink ayahuasca, so they have no tourism, and I mean, it was rough out there when we did visit in terms of finances. There's no money coming into the middle of the jungle for no reason. You know what I mean? There's nothing there. And there's this ring of volcanoes here near Quito, and there's like hot springs. And I was like, man, okay, we're gonna go on this crazy trip, and we're gonna make a bunch of videos about the volcanoes and go help the Shuar get this oil cleaned up, and then go to the Warani and make a documentary and do all this stuff. And then we got hacked, and someone took it all. And also, I needed all this dental work. Um, so I was like, you know what? We're just gonna hope that we can make the money back by the time we get to the volcanoes. And then we got like 3/4 of the way there, and I realized no, we're not. It's not happening. Um, I had good reason to think that it would. I did. It wasn't just like a compulsive thing, but it didn't work out. So now we have to go to the jungle. Where I mean, I don't have to go to the jungle. I love the jungle, um, but I was just I guess still clinging to this plan that we had, because it was awesome, and it would have helped, indigenous people that have given us medicine that could avert our own extinction if we use it properly. So, um, still, I hate that hacker more than I don't hate my ex. I just wish she would just shut the hell up and leave me alone. And maybe she'll watch this and realize that she's being an idiot and get over it or something. It's kind of flattering, when someone still is hung up on you 5 years later in a sort of Charles Manson meets, um, I don't know, the girl from that meme, you know. So I gotta go, you guys, because 7 hours on a bus is not gonna be fun. We're carrying a lot of stuff too. So and then after 7 hours on a bus, guess what we get to do the next day? 6 hours on a bus. But then we'll be in Shwar territory. I'm not even saying where we're going because, you know, that's just crazy ex. I don't just want her to know anything. But we're going to Shwar territory. There are anacondas there. Always wanted to see an anaconda in the wild. I'll make sure and get some good videos. Um, and you know, you guys, you just got to stay empowered. Don't let crazy people fuck with you. And when you realize that someone is not healthy, you just have to have the strength to just shut that shit down. You know, and you just can't. One of the main things is you got to be independent enough that you can't be dependent. You know, whether it's psychologically, emotionally, financially. You know, got to have your independence. You got to have your freedom. You know, and all of your decisions have got to come from a healthy place of clarity and positivity, right? No, I haven't been to Peru to see the elongated skulls. They ever stick gum in your car keyholes? Who? Extraction process poisons the waters. I heard they blow. I'm confused. What am I looking at? No, I don't do anything for EMF protection. I don't have a tinfoil hat yet. Um, I can't afford one right now. Let's see what else we got here. I heard they blow up the mountains to get gold. Yeah, man. Actually, another crazy experience. I was, well, not that crazy, but it was a little bit synchronistic. I was riding in a bus through the Andes, and I saw this creek, and I thought, man, I'd like to gold pan in there. And like when we got over the creek, the mountain peak was just blasted, gone, and there was gold processing equipment around, extracting equipment. So yeah, it's bad, man. They will leak oil, and they'll just leave it there. The kids will die. I mean, they don't clean up the oil spills, is what I'm trying to say, because it's in the middle of the jungle. It's not in the ocean where there are people to see it. There's nobody. You know, what are the indigenous people going to do to tell anyone? You know, I mean, it just, and even if they do, you know, it's unfortunate how few people care. I mean, now that I'm actually been to the rainforest, and I see how few people are actually trying to do anything. It's pretty fucking alarming. I'm surprised, honestly, that there aren't more people working with the indigenous. There aren't more people down here actually physically here trying to work to protect the rainforest. I mean, I know people have jobs and lives and shit, but man, it's it's just such an incredible place, and it's really fucked that, I mean, there's more biodiversity on a single 6-inch piece of wood down there than there is in the entire state of Oklahoma. You know, and running a bulldozer through that seems it's incomprehensible to me. Absolutely incomprehensible. And then the gold miners have, there's so much mercury in the water that sometimes the indigenous kids get this crazy mercury poisoning on the outside of their skin, and they kind of look like a carp, like big fish scales, and they die a lot, a lot. It's fucked, man. I mean, they don't care at all, not one little bit. They know that, you know, they're dumping pure mercury into the water, and it's just fine, I guess. So, anyways, guys, thank you so much for spending this time with me. You know, Sarah, if you see this, fuck off, please. Just, you know, go find someone, fall in love, get over it. I didn't do anything wrong. Don't deserve your harassment. So, you know, I'm trying to do good in the world. There's definitely worse people you could go harass. So I have a Kabbalion video that is scheduled to play while I'm on the bus tomorrow. Uh, it's the polarity one, and it is one of the most one of the best parts of the book. And this definitely, I think, probably the best commentary that I've offered for the Kybalion so far. So um, check it out if you're into that kind of thing. And stay healthy, be cool, try not to kill anybody. We'll see you again soon.